interviewing Rob Double, Chief Operating Officer of leading digital broadcasting company based in London, Core London. Rob was a very active child, in his words, quite naughty, and he liked to make things happen rather than wait for them to happen. And as we will see, this has proven to be a major asset for him in his career. Now, Rob didn't know what he wanted to do, and so his early activities ranged from a number of things, such as writing music and posting an album to YouTube, and that was well before YouTubers were mainstream. And he also spent a gap year as a teacher. It was only at the end of uni that he decided he wanted to get into digital broadcasting. And as we'll hear, those traits from his childhood of making things happen are what have propelled him to achieve the status he has today in this field. So great to see you, Rob. Thanks so much for joining us. First, I want to talk about your history and how you actually got here. It's quite interesting. So tell us from when you were at school right the way through to your first job. That would be interesting.
Okay, so school, I started off at a local school near where I lived in Chislehurst. I moved to a school called Dulwich College in South London for the rest of my education, and right up until A-level, because I wasn't that well behaved at my previous school and I needed to be kicked up the backside a little bit.
So you're naughty?
Yeah, I was quite naughty. I just wanted to run around, really, I think, and I wasn't that interested in learning that much at that time. I kind of wanted to do my own thing. And yeah, I needed a bit of discipline, I think.
And what sort of personality did you have? Were you sporty? Were you academic?
No, I've never really been a massive fan of academics and like books and stuff. I do enjoy learning, but sitting down and reading a book about fact I've never been good at that.
Yeah.
I was very sporty when I was younger. And yeah, so I was probably I like being up and active rather than sat down for a long day.
So lively sort of person, running about, and it was deemed that you needed a little bit of control and structure. Would you say?
I think structure probably was the key one. I needed a bit of a structure and a bit of maybe slightly more intensity to keep me focused.
Yeah.
And at the same time, I think it was said that I needed the opportunity to do loads of different things in an environment where I was able to do lots of different things, sign up to different things, and outside of learning, it was very important. I think that I didn't go to like an exam factory school, which are perfectly fine, suits some people, but yeah, it wasn't for me.
So you're a multitasker.
Of some sorts, yeah.
Yeah, sounds like. And you had a particular interest while you were at school, didn't you? Which was the cadets you mentioned.
Yeah, so I got into that just kind of a lot of people did in year 9, and I really enjoyed that. And again, that's quite interesting because that was very much rigid, very firm structures, processes, and I just really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the camaraderie and the sort of intensity of it and the structure of it and the opportunities to get to go and do loads of things.
Yeah. One of those things was learning to fly pretty early.
Yeah, so I learned to glide, so without an engine at 15, I think, and to solo standards, so I was flying around Croydon solo, which was quite cool.
Croydon is South London,
South
isn't it?
London, yeah. And then I off the back of that, applied and got a flying scholarship in Dundee. Yeah. So I got to go and fly a propeller aircraft solo at Dundee Airport.
Excellent.
That was all paid for. So that was really, really, that was really, really cool. Before I got to drive a car, which was that was pretty cool for me.
And also something totally unrelated. You wrote music as well at school.
Yeah, that completely happened randomly. I don't actually know when I decided I would really like to write music or have a go, because I haven't, until that point I started, I hadn't had any musical training apart from the drums. I used to play the drums. Yeah. I was really always from a young age like tapping away at things and stuff. So it happened about 15. I started, and then I got into it. I started doing it a lot in my spare time, and then I started working out how to make tracks properly, and then I saw that I could release some through, I wanted to get on like iTunes and stuff, right? And so I did that through an online distribution company, which was quite new at the time. Yeah. And I created like an album, a few tracks first and then an album. And that's still up there? It's still up there. I do not recommend you listen, but it is still up there. But interestingly, you were actually in this world, as it were, this digital publishing world, even at that age. Yeah, it's curious to happen just because I wanted to do it. It was like, well, I've made this stuff. Wouldn't it be cool if? Yeah. And then it was just a case of finding how to do it. Yeah. phoning up a recording studio and saying, can I come in for 2 hours and you can properly mix and master.
I'll come on to
my
that in a
tracks,
minute
yeah.
because I think this ability to just phone up and ask for things has actually been one of your key strengths as you've moved through your career history. But before we do that, tell us a bit more about the academic side. You did A-levels.
Yeah, so I did theatre studies,
Yeah.
geography and politics,
Yeah.
and then history AS. Theatre studies was one where, again, it was very much a rogue option,
Yeah.
particularly for my school, which was very, it's academically selective as well as,
Yeah.
private school. So it was, it was far. I was only about 4 of us doing it.
Right.
And it was always seen as a bit of like, oh, well, if you want to get to a good university, why would you do theatre studies? But I did it.
So you did these, yeah?
And then I went, I applied to do geography at university, thinking that I wanted to do geography.
Yeah.
Well, really, I knew I liked human geography and I wanted to do politics, but for some reason I applied for geography. And I applied for, as you would, why not? I applied for Oxford to do geography. And then, because I applied for Oxford to do geography, so I had to apply for everywhere else to do geography.
Yeah.
Because Oxford didn't offer straight politics.
Right.
And I didn't get into Oxford, and I got offered from other places, but then I realised, you know what, I don't want to do geography, and there's no point me going to university to do something which I know was a second choice to start with.
Yes. Did you consider not going to university at all?
No, I think for me, I always wanted to go to university. I don't think it was anything to do with the academic side of it. I wanted a degree, and I acknowledged that it'd been ingrained with me that you needed to go to university to access the sort of kind of professional jobs that I was perhaps wanting to go into at some point in the future.
Yeah. Because things have changed quite significantly. I mean, when you were of that mindset, that was very, very true. What year would that have been?
So 2011, probably.
Yeah, because the whole concept of apprenticeships wasn't even introduced until 2011, not in terms of access to professions like it is now. So in 2011, I can totally understand that was the understanding of you and everybody else of your age, really, my own children included, that if you wanted to get into a professional role, it would be via the university route. And as we know, that's sort of changed now. But so that was the route that you were deciding upon. But you then sort of changed tack a little bit, didn't you? You decided to take a gap year.
Yeah. So after I kind of realised I didn't want to do the degree, and it just so happened that Dulwich, my school, had started off a scheme and like an outreach project, effectively, with a school in. At that point, it might have been in special measures. If not, it was very near to special measures, Ofsted special measures.
Right.
I think the failing academy, I think, is roughly kind of what you can say. And they said, would anyone like to go to be a mentor? Now, this again was really rogue,
Yeah.
Isle of Sheppey, where is that?
Yeah.
You wouldn't have heard.
Where is it, by the way?
It's in Kent. It's just in the Kent estuary, right on the coast.
Okay.
But again, you wouldn't. It's unheard of unless you have to go there for some reason.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, that actually sounds really interesting. I'd done a lot of, I suppose, early kind of mentor teaching through a lot of stuff I'd done with the cadets. When I did that, I'd done a few leadership things at the school as well. So I thought, well, I could do
a little bit of grounding, yeah.
A little bit of grounding, but not really for what I was going to go into.
So you went there to be a mentor, but that quickly became a full-on teacher.
My job initially was to go in to try and mentor those who were academically gifted but low attainment, so weren't getting the results they should. But they didn't have enough staff. They didn't have enough teachers, particularly in the core subjects, which is English, science and maths.
Yeah.
And so I went into English, and it became clear well, it's wrong for a class of 30 students to have a permanent cover teacher. Now, everyone knows when it's cover teacher time, everything starts getting a bit lax, including rules and sort of progress, because the cover teacher's not going to be there next day to mark your work.
Yes.
And they're probably not going to know your name, and they've got a different lanyard on, so you know who they are.
Yeah, it's difficult, isn't it?
And so I said, you know what, I'm going to take on these classes, and so that happened, really. And so it became that I was taking on sort of years 7 to 11.
And you were teaching English?
Teaching English, which I hadn't done at A-level, but...
Amazing.
Yeah, it just
and
happened.
You did that for a whole year, near enough?
Pretty much a whole year, yeah. because then I went off to do Wimbledon,
Right.
which I would highly recommend doing court attendant.
As a court attendant, yeah.
Yeah, which is where it got me in the university mode as well, because a lot of university students do it because it's in the summer months as a way of getting a lot of money. Because you're on an hourly wage, and you work a lot of hours every day. 5 in the morning till 7, 8 at night. Yeah. And so you can rack up a lot of money. For a student, that's the dream.
And you also did some other work experience that you really didn't like, and that was the stock exchange.
Yeah, so that was 15 or 16. Actually, no, it might have been 17. Actually, yeah, it was probably towards the AS or A level. Yeah. And I speculatively, I had no idea what I wanted to do. I thought I wanted to go into the military, and then it wasn't really working out. And so I was like, let's just try everything. That was quite a key moment in a way for me, and kind of shaped the way I looked at jobs, because I walked in there, I remember, and I remember walking through the door and it just being a silent, open plan office with just no one talking. Everyone just sitting down, typing at computers.
And totally not you.
And I massively reacted against that. And I think that the second element to that was I didn't feel like I felt like I was a burden. And I was kind of just sitting there for a whole week and literally didn't do anything.
So you finished your gap year, and then you went to university. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so I did politics at Durham. Yeah. Really enjoyed that. I kept on writing music throughout that. I really enjoyed just the lifestyle and the group of friends and being in halls and renting and stuff like that. That was really, really great. I still had no idea what I wanted to do though as a job. Yeah. So this was that I did this sort of stereotypical thing, I think, which is realizing, loads of my friends are applying for all of these jobs and internships at these big, flashy named companies, and like BP or Goldman Sachs or big law firms and stuff like that. And I think in probably the feeling like insecure at the fact I wasn't progressing in terms of what I wanted to do, I kind of did that thing where I spent a very long time applying for loads of different jobs in loads of different sectors. Yeah. And it was also informative in a way, because I wasn't very successful in many of the applications, but I reflect on that now as a lot of the applications I found myself having to ask other people what I should write and how I can write this better and that better and what should I say here. And I think if I reflect on that, if you're having to do that,
it's not your true passion.
You're probably not doing or applying for something that you really want to do.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely true. That when things don't work out, it tends to be because they're sort of not meant to, because it's maybe for whatever reason it's not the right thing for you, or even it's not the right thing for you yet. Yeah, I definitely am a firm believer, and that's what you found to be the case, because in your last year of uni, you sort of had a light bulb moment and you decided what you wanted to do.
Yeah, I mean, I wanted to do journalism, I think. I wanted to do broadcasting. And that was probably the third year was the time that I realised I want to commit and focus. And that was very reassuring in a way. When you've got that stability of focus and the concentration, it can be very effective if you're very proactive, because then you can really start you're maximising your efforts into a small area and getting somewhere.
And you have a huge list of names where you actually got work experience, so you were indeed very proactive once you decided what you wanted to do. And I guess working for all these different companies, which you can list for us in a moment, sort of reinforced the fact that this new choice or this decision was the right one for you. List some of the companies that you went to work for.
So when I was in Durham, I worked for, I did student radio, which was a good way of doing broadcasting. Yeah. I did a local radio station in Darlington called Star FM. Yeah. I did Northeast Global Radio. I did BBC Radio London. Yeah. No, sorry, BBC 5 Live, and then I did LBC. Yeah. I think I did loads of I tried BBC Newcastle, wasn't successful there. And then I think that was quite a lot of them.
Quite a lot of lists.
But it was just like week-long work experiences and phoning people up and saying, can I come and help?
But I think that's the thing that I wanted, because, some of a lot of these names are very well known, and a lot of individuals would think, well, I'd never be able to get a job there. But you can't you, if you are prepared to be proactive and push yourself forward. Tell us what you did to get those jobs.
Well, it's just a case... and actually, this is true of Metro Radio, which is big northern Newcastle radio. I'd emailed about 3 or 4 times. And then I called up to say, the news desk, just to say, I'm really interested in doing some work experience. And that was the prompt that got me oh yeah, fine, okay, you know. And it's just a case a lot of the time. And then what I'd say is phone people up, don't just email, because emails are very easy to ignore and they're also very easy to forget. It's very difficult to actually forget, and I find this now, someone who you've spoken to, because you've made a human connection with them in a way. And even what I'd always used to normally do, and what I did particularly when I was doing my masters, was that if you call someone up first and then say, they normally will say, send me an email.
Yes.
And then you send them an email. That email then means something to them, and they will have a far greater connection. You can start that dialogue, but you've got to be persistent and be prepared to put yourself out there. And as I said, I wasn't successful with some, but you've just got to try when you're there, make yourself useful, be resourceful, don't be too overwhelming. And also, if you meet other people while you're there, get talking to them. And that's what I did at LBC. Was such a door opener for me in a way, because I was there at the same week that Jeremy Corbyn was about to be elected as the Labour leader for the first time, and I finished my work experience. I was supposed to finish my work experience on a Friday, and the Saturday was the event. And I just said to the political editor, "Can I come along on tomorrow and help you out with your broadcast there?" And he said, "Yeah, fine. Why not? It doesn't cost me anything."
Why not ask? Yeah.
And
what's the worst case scenario?
And
it would have been that they said no.
Exactly. Yeah. And it was at there that I met the BBC producer that got me the work experience at BBC 5 Live.
Yeah.
And it was from chatting to her that I got that she introduced me to the email to someone else who then got me. And it's just how it works. And most people, from my experience, do want to help someone who really seems to be ambitious and nice and just genuinely just needs a bit of a leg up. That's my response. I
totally agree. It's just a question of being brave enough to ask, like you say. And so many people are fearful of the phone, but and hide behind email, like you say. But there's no doubt about it. And in fact, it's even more unusual now to receive a phone call from somebody asking for an opportunity than it used to be.
Yeah.
Because of the email thing. So you can stand out pretty easily.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you decided, because of all of this activity, that broadcasting was for you, and then you decided that you were going to do a master's.
Yeah. Well, it was I was advised strongly that I needed to do a master's. And to be fair, if you do want to do a master's and you do want to go into journalism, it's a very good way of showing. It's like a passport. If you've done the master's, it shows you're committed and you're really interested and want to do journalism, or want to do broadcasting in a serious way, not just I want to be a presenter and be the next sort of face of Top Gear or kind of thing.
What would you say to people who say, well, I'd love to do a master's, but I can't afford it, I'm worried about the student loan?
Well, yeah, so I genuinely, and I did, when I was in third year, I worked, did as JCR president, so I did help a lot of undergraduates who had, challenges like this or whatever, and advised them. Student loans, or at least heard their concerns. Yeah. Student loans, I don't think are really a massive barrier at all. I think they're massively demonised by whoever, and it's just the assumption is they're a bad thing, and they just say, oh, you leave university with X amount of debt. Think about the loan, though, for a second. It's incredibly preferable terms. You get the money for free, to pay off your loans. You don't worry about it. Yeah. You only ever start paying it back once you earn enough where you can comfortably start paying it back, which I think 20-something thousand, 21, low 20s thousands. If you can't pay it back, or if you lose your job, you lose that money, you then stop paying your loan. And then, if it turns out you haven't been, you get to a certain time period, and it's just wiped clean. Yeah. So you don't have it for your whole life.
I couldn't agree more. And, as we were saying earlier, it's lovely that the opportunity now to access professions via apprenticeships and courses of that nature, is now mainstream and offered to everybody. But I really don't think that we should denigrate the university routes and talk about the issues of student loans, because exactly like you say, they are manageable, they are demonised, and I think that every individual ought to be given the opportunity to do either route, or indeed both routes. And isn't it amazing in this country that young people are supported in this manner? You did the masters, you passed that, and while you were doing it, you, again, very proactive, you decided that there was a job that you could do. Tell us about that.
I mean, it didn't exist. I would say everything in terms of where I am now came from a single email I sent to someone speculatively. And that's, I suppose, shows the importance of just contacting someone. There was no position available, there was no opening available. I just saw on YouTube, I think, a small production company doing a, I think was quite a embryonic kind of politics show, and I emailed the CEO. I found out the CEO's email. I emailed them and I said, "Can I just come in and just help you out? Just with a bit of work experience. I think I could help in your politics show."
Yeah.
I then got a meeting with the CEO, who's now the boss, my boss.
Yes.
And he said, "Oh, we're actually thinking of shutting down the politics." And I said, I think that's a really bad idea. I think now's the time you should really make politics a big part of your content. And it was just a conversation where he said, "Well, do you want to do it then?"
And you were still doing your masters at this point.
I was still doing my masters, and I had then the split second to decide: am I going to say yes, or am I going to say no? I don't think I'm ready for this. And I said yes. And I do not regret that decision one bit. And
What
I made
an
it
amazing
happen.
example of, you have to take opportunities when they're presented. But it didn't just happen for you. It wasn't luck. You went after it. You saw that there was something that you could add value to, and you went for it. And you put yourself out there. You didn't just think about it. You actually took the action.
And then it was a case of, well, now I've got the gig. I really want to make this happen.
Yeah.
And
So how did you juggle that between, doing your studies still and finishing this incredibly important qualification, the Masters, and still wanting to make an impression and sort of, deliver what you said you were going to deliver for this new company?
You've just got to make it work. I mean, the reality is, do you want to be a successful journalist? Do you want to be a high-flying journalist? Do you want to be the face of some channel or face of some television? If you do, you make it happen. You make the opportunity happen. So there, it was just a case of, well, I found the hours in the day to make the calls to try and get people to come on, send the emails. I'd barely done any presenting experience prior to coming here. I'd done some demos at the work experience places I'd done. But there I was, and it was just a case of, well, you just got to make it work. Yeah. And that's the best I can say, is that the world is full of people who said, "Oh yes, but I couldn't do this because this is why." And the reality is the world doesn't work like that. Are you going to make it happen or not? And that's kind of that was it. And it was just a case of some late nights and early mornings.
And during that time, you weren't getting paid for it either. It was more of an internship with expenses being covered, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was just some expenses.
So definitely a labour of love, as it were, and you proving yourself.
Yeah, and knowing that what you were doing was gaining you invaluable experience and exposure.
Of course.
I learned an enormous amount doing it. So the value, I didn't see it as, oh, I'm not being paid, I am being scammed. I saw it as, well, I'm gaining a huge amount of value in the incredible amount of experience I'm getting by able to sit in a seat with an earpiece and interviewing all these people.
Yeah, amazing. So once you finished your Masters, what happened then?
So I'd been working for this company, and it'd been successful enough, as the boss said, to true to his word, that I got offered a full-time job doing the politics full-time. Which is where I bought this wonderful tie from.
Yes.
When as a celebratory gift to myself.
Yeah.
And it just started, and I just tried my best to grow the politics content and come up with new ideas, new series, and try and do something different. You get a sense in a way of where there's a huge amount of noise which is made by the conventional news and conventional media and alternative media as well, online and new media. Where's your space? Where's the gap?
Yes.
And then, you just try and find where the gap is. So our most successful series on our politics channel now have been ones where we're doing something no one else is doing, and it's unique and it's memorable.
Fantastic.
And people have to come to you to get that content.
Yeah.
And I did that until December 2017.
Yeah.
And then it just so happened, as you get in small companies, things change.
Yeah.
And I was just offered... I sort of said, again, I kind of put myself forward to run the operations of the production company, become the COO.
Yeah.
And I've been doing that since the 1st of January 2018.
So that's amazing. That in such a short period of time, you've gone from, there wasn't even a vacancy, sort of suggesting to the owner of the business that something needs to be done, him accepting your proposition,
Yeah.
you proving yourself without, sort of formal pay, as it were, just expenses, whilst you're doing your masters. Then you join the company full time because the owner has been true to his word as well, and then you prove yourself some more, and then you now offered this, what we call C-suite, top executive role of chief operating officer. It's amazing. So congratulations, and I think that this whole theme of making things happen, wanting to do lots of stuff, that's what sort of really has stood you in such good stead. So that naughty boy at school, actually, that was really positive.
Yeah, and in a way, this job, I've found a job which kind of I now know fits exactly what I want to do, in a way, because it's whereas before, when someone would ask me what do you want to do, and I think this is a mistake of it's perhaps how we frame future careers to advice or talking. What do you want to do normally has to have an answer of I want to do this job or this profession. And that's quite limited. For someone at 18, 17 to say I want to be, that is quite prescriptive. Whereas for me, I realise
you want to make things happen.
That's what I enjoy doing most. I'm like the
I
feeling
think I might
of
have to
making
change
things
the
happen.
title of this. I want to be a
making things happen
person. Tell me about your typical day.
So a typical day is now waking up at 6:30ish if it's a normal day, and checking emails, getting ready, getting in for about 8:15, and then I normally get quite a lot of emails from clients in the morning, just checking things, confirming things, querying things, which I then have to deal with or send off to people or double check and run around and do stuff like that. Normally in the morning we do a morning politics bulletin thing, which I present, and I work with Jenny, who's the politics producer on that. And then I work with the production team and chat. We have like a little sit down and chat through the day. What are the projects we've got running on? What's the progress? Are there any problems in terms of that, the progress of whether it's editing or producing? Is all the equipment okay? Is there any news otherwise? And do all of that kind of stuff. And then a lot of it now is meetings with potential clients. Like, so someone comes in with an idea, or someone's wants to pitch something, or we need to sort out some kind of problem. It's dealing with that. And then there's a little bit of working with Jenny, the producer, and the politics. What do we want to do in the future? What's next week's plan? How's our content doing? Can we shift anything? This is in the news today. Can we reflect some of our recent content? So it's interesting. It really is
as if you're working for a television network, but you are, right, really. But what they say, don't they, now, is that the mobile phone is like the new TV. And then all these social media platforms are like the news stations. And what you're doing is producing content for one of the social media platforms, primarily YouTube, that people can access on their mobile devices.
Well, massive amounts of, mobile is the new way to consume information, mobile completely. And iPads.
And you do travel as well, don't you, to Europe, etc.
Yeah, so, I mean, I say that's a normal day. And in between there is writing up sort of reports and emails and all of this stuff, and trying to do a lot of improvements to the infrastructure of the company as well, because we're still growing.
Yes.
But sometimes we get to go to the European Parliament and Strasbourg, and so that's sort of, normally that's like 5 o'clock starts to get to the airport and stuff like that, fly out and do all of that, and then come back in the late evening the next day. Or, again, the opportunity came up for me to do paper reviewing for early morning BBC radio. And that means I have to be up at 2:20 2:15 in the morning, do that from 4 till 5, and then get to the office 5:30 in the morning, try and get a couple of hours sleep on a sofa we have, and then work the day
off
like
you
normal.
Go again.
So I mean it's quite,
it's not fixed hours,
but then I don't think life nowadays can be. We're living in a mobile, as you say, I mean, this is a digital company dealing with future content. We also have to deal with the realities of future work. Like, things aren't 9 to 5 really anymore. You've got dealing with the world. You're not dealing with the UK.
No, so, exactly.
That has to be reflected in the way you work.
And tell me, what's the biggest challenges in this role?
The biggest challenge is I think the amount of stuff that goes on,
Yeah.
the amount of opportunities, the amount of conversations you have. You can easily get, if you don't keep on top of sort of your admin, it can get very overwhelming and things start getting lost down cracks and holes.
Yeah.
And I think there's an inevitable problem that I'm largely responsible with running the production side, and things will inevitably, as it does, go wrong, or things haven't been done, or things are forgotten. And that can be quite frustrating, particularly because there's so much happening, you haven't been aware of something or whatever. But
Yeah.
quite rightly, as this person who's fundamentally responsible, you get the rap for it, or you have to spend the hours to resolve the issue. And I think there is an element of as well, when you're working in such a small team.
Yeah.
The first element of that is, well, great, you get loads of experience in those different things,
Yes.
but you have to work incredibly hard
Yes.
and be
'Cause there's so
prepared
much
to do
to do.
everything else. There's so much
Yeah,
to do.
I mean, I think you're in that situation where there are growing pains because you're in a small business, but it's growing relatively fast, and you're also in a new sector, which is also growing and changing fast as well.
Yeah.
So those two collided in your world. So there's a lot to do. But then you're the sort of person that likes lots of things to
Yeah,
do. So isn't it interesting how, yet again, another example here, how the sort of person that you are, liking, to do lots and making things happen, combined with the whole broadcasting side, the fact that, you put music online such a long time ago before people were really doing that. It does sort of all come together, and that's why you're enjoying your role so much.
Yeah, and you stumble into them, I think, unless you're, I think people do eventually,
Yeah.
whether it comes in early 20s or late 20s or possibly even 30s, people do tend to try you stumble into what you perhaps not been aware of in terms of what you really like doing.
Yeah.
Eventually, I'm lucky enough in that,
Yeah.
and perhaps
It's not luck.
Well,
It isn't luck. I think
you pick up the phone and you call someone, and it just
exactly, and that isn't luck. I think the fact that you make the decision to make the call, and I would say that to everybody listening, you make your own luck. And I know that's a cliche, but it absolutely is true. Where could this type of role lead to? Not necessarily even for you, but for anybody really.
The nature of this area we're in, which is this is the future. Digital content is the future.
Yes.
And you can talk to anyone in old media. They're deeply worried at the fact that conventional ways of entertaining people isn't making the same money it has been.
No.
This is the space where the future is in terms of the industry, and where the money is. So if you're in this area, it can lead into it filters into any of the creative industries, to be honest, and that includes marketing, advertising, comms, PR. Obviously, for me, I could, if I wanted to go into the sort of journalism side and continue my political journalism, because I do really love that, and making that's work for me. Or I could go into some other creative sector, or I could go into, I suppose now, a more management role.
Yes.
In
or
another company,
even an entrepreneurial role.
Or go from this into another small company trying to grow and trying to make it big, or go into a more established company and go in. I'm not sure whether that would necessarily fit me, going into a bigger institution, perhaps. But then I don't know, because I haven't really ever done it.
But it could lead that way.
Yeah.
And so for various people listening to this podcast now, and that would range from those who are sort of sitting in the classroom through to those maybe about to go to university or leaving university, or even those who are midway through their career and just want to change. If they're listening now and they're keen to get into this world of digital broadcasting, as you have, what would be your suggestions to them to make that happen?
Well, the most obvious thing is it costs you nothing to try out and create content online nowadays.
Yeah.
You can create an account on YouTube and make videos on YouTube, or try out different kind of content on YouTube for free, and you have access to an incredible amount of resources and tutorials and everything online now in the digital space. And I can guarantee you, if you've been using online media for a while, you're going to be more knowledgeable than a lot of the people in established media organizations who are trying to work it out. So just get a feel for how it works, And you can do that from your own laptop or your school laptop or your university library for free.
Yes.
So get involved in that, particularly if you're at school or whatever. Obviously, some people don't want to do but in front of camera, they want to do behind camera and stuff. But there is so much around this. The space is so fluid at the moment. There is no way of doing things online. It's massively creative.
And so if people were to produce a piece of content, what would they then do with it?
Well, try it out, and you have to. And I did that. This is what I hit this step with my music when I would been creating loads of stuff, and I was being a perfectionist with it and not letting anyone listen to it. And there's a threshold where you just have to take the leap, where you allow people to listen to it.
And what about accessing companies so that you can maybe suggest solutions like you did with Core London, where you saw something and you just wrote straight in and said, I think we could do something better here for you. Is that something you would suggest to people as well?
Yeah, absolutely. I can guarantee you it doesn't matter how important or big or amazing you think the company is, pretty much every company, particularly in the media, are desperate for new ideas on how to make money in the digital space because it's so early.
Yeah.
If someone came in, if we was 17 years old and said, I've got a really new, interesting way I think you guys could make money, we would probably take that meeting and hear them out.
Yes.
So if you've got an idea or you think you've discovered a new way of doing things, just go and approach people, because I can guarantee you they're dying to hear ideas. And perhaps, particularly if you hit the right person, say the right things and have the right idea, it will end up the break, which gives you the job
step
6 months down the line.
That's fantastic. So, Rob, that's been fascinating. If people want to find out more about you, where would they go?
Probably to the production company website, which is www.corelondon.tv. And if you want to see me in particular doing politics, it's just click on the politics tab on it, or go on YouTube and type in Core Politics. And
if they want to find you on that tab, just tell us your surname. It's quite an unusual surname, but people are not going to forget it once they hear it.
Rob Double, and yes, that is double as in you double two, you get four kind of thing, yeah.
Excellent. Rob, thank you so much. It really has been inspirational to listen to your story, and some great advice there, so thank you.
Thank you very much.